Hey, this is part one of Thriving Youth Ministry in Small Churches with Stephanie Caro.
Okay, my friends, welcome to our time together. My name is Stephanie Caro, and I am the product of serving like 35 years in youth ministry. As I told a class I taught yesterday, you too can look this good after, I was thinking, if you're thinking about youth ministry as a lifelong career, it is truly just one great big long lock-in air mattress pizza. To the point that after 35 years of ministry, you want to know the truth? I hate pizza. I still consume it. I just don't like it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I figured when I die on my tombstone, there'd be a pizza. Get it? Tombstone. I am so sorry. That wasn't that great a joke. But anyway, it's sort of, have y'all reached the official sort of, I'm glad to be here mentally, spiritually, but I'm at the physically exhausted? Anybody stay up too late last night? I sure did. I stayed up till like 1:30 and never you mind what I was doing. So anyway, what you have stumbled into is, let me tell you a little bit about this. I am a mom. My husband and I have 7 kids. I know, pray for me. Or actually, just pray for the kids. Actually, none of them live at home anymore, so it's all good. We are not sad, empty nesters. So we have 7 kids. We should have learned how to knit instead, but we had these kids, and we got lots of grandkids, so I'm a mom and I'm a grandma, and I'm also now senior consultant for a company that a guy named Mark DeVries owns. Mark wrote the book Sustainable Youth Ministry, so I'm senior consultant for ministry architects, and we just partner along with churches. Churches will bring us in to assess their youth ministry or children's ministry or even the whole church and just kind of take a temperature, see how it's going. So basically, now, after all those years of ministry, I served in full-time church staff ministry. I just travel now and get to come to conferences like this and go into churches and work with them. But in the early 2000s, I was going through the ordination process in my faith tradition where you get sent to churches instead of, and they sort of hired me, but I was sort of sent there. And so before that, I had been working with like big youth ministries. And so I went from having like 200 kids in my youth group to this church in Florida and where there was 9 kids. And I didn't quite know how to do the math of that. Because you come to a conference like this, and don't you kind of get the sense that everything here seems to be, like you feel like it's all big youth groups, like the games are, and can you all hear me okay? Everybody in the back? Good, thank you. So you feel like you're talking about numbers here, and all the resources that I had in my youth ministry library seem to be geared towards playing games with 50 students. And how do you all of a sudden have 9, and what do you do about that? Well, I discovered quickly that I loved it, but I also discovered that there wasn't a whole lot of small church stuff out there. So I called a friend of mine who is the editor for Group Magazine, this guy named Rick Lawrence, and I said, hey, what can you recommend? What's out there? And he says, nothing, so why don't you go and write it? So I figured, well, okay. And so, so now I get to be a part of a bunch of people now recognizing how much small church stuff needs to be out there, and you'll see that there's more and more that's geared towards the small church now. Yeah, there's still some mathematical work you have to do to make it work, but now there's blogs dedicated to that. There's books out there. Like Group Magazine has a column in each one of its issues for a small church. So anyway, you'll find it. Let me just introduce my family to you. This happy child She hates, this is number 7. We can't remember all their names, so we just number them. She did that. So this is the only reason I show this everywhere, just to kind of know, so you know who I am, where I'm coming from. If she knew I showed this everywhere, she has a picture of me altering the evidence of my age that she would show, but don't tell her. Okay, that's the beloved dog. We do love him more than our children. Our children are correct. That's my holy mother. My mother is she is a good Southern woman, because I'm from Houston. Did I mention that? My mother's born and raised in Houston, and she is a good Southern woman, church-going lady that says things like, oh, isn't that special? And like, bless your heart, which you know means in Southern women speak, you're so stupid. Yeah, it's true. Bless your heart. You're an idiot. Did I tell you that's her doing that? So this is the reason why I show it, because she wrecked 2 of my cars in a year. That's my husband. I don't know what he was thinking. It was his birthday. I mean, he's wearing the cone hat because it was birthday. Just in case you wondered, did he wear that all the time? Because if he wore that all the time, we would not have 7 kids. I probably shouldn't have said that. I don't care. This is a youth staff meeting at my house. I don't know what they were giving lip service to. Anyway, and then the upper picture, I have a lot of grandkids. Since we have 7 kids, we got like 24,000 grandkids. And so I'll do these things. This is one of my favorite times of the year. I'll do these things called Camp Grandma. So if we follow or friend each other on Facebook, every once in a while you're going to hear me talking about Camp Grandma. And what it is a youth director, me, meets, I've volunteered or directed one too many vacation Bible schools. And then I think of myself as a fun grandma. So you put that all together, and we'll have these camp week themes. Like apparently this was witness protection theme week or something. But, we'll have one, like we have one coming up that's called Easter Movie. It's going to be after spring break where we're making our own Easter costumes and movie, and they create the whole script. I don't know if it's going to be ready for primetime television, but it's always fun for me. So, anywho, one of the things that I know about working with small churches, and now that I am in one, my husband and I just joined a church within the last couple of months, my whole family. One of the things that I hear and see when I go visit small churches is I hear a lot of excuses because, I'm there kind of working with them as a ministry architects consultant, and I'll hear things like this. But Stephanie, you don't understand. We're just a small church. Or I'll hear, but you don't understand. We just don't have a budget. Or, but you don't understand. We don't have any staff people. So I'll hear a lot of buts. And I saw this video clip, and I kind of thought, let's just sort of kick off with that. Some of the big buts I hear in small church ministry. All right, folks. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Oh, that was good. If you can hear me, clap a lot of times. Thank you. I'm so pathetic. Okay, so I'm dying to hear who's in the room. What were some of the big buts that you came up with? Yeah, right here. What's your name? Yeah, that's you. Tim. Oh, but it's not on the calendar. Yeah, those church secretary admin people, they're so helpful. Yeah, well, they'll say, yeah, but did you put it on the calendar? And oh, did you? I thought you looked familiar. So now you have less butts? Well, from 20 butts to 1 butt is a whole lot of butt reduction. I don't know why I said that, but I just liked saying it. There you go. The one thing I love about a church calendar is if we're in a small church and we're lucky enough to have a church van, I love the annual Will the Youth Ministry Beat the Women's Group to the Van calendar time of year. It's the one reason for youth workers to be organized calendar-wise, because that way you can get to the calendar first, because we're all looking for it the same week, spring break and in the summer. Anyway. Okay, other butts. What'd you come up with? Yeah, right here. What's your name? Your tag's turned around.
Michael. It's about politics, but it's kind of either, but I served my time but I've already.
Oh, yeah. The old, but I've served my time. I took my turn when my kids were in the program. Yeah, that's just so biblical. Yes. Back in the back. Oh, ooh. Yeah. But that's not the way we've always done it. And you just want to say, but the way you've done it sucks. Right? And for those of you that are offended that I just said, sucks, that's too bad, because... Oh, she says, well, that sucks. Anyway, all righty. Yeah, Alan.
But we don't have the numbers to justify that.
We don't have the numbers to justify that. Yeah. Yeah, right back. Minda. Okay. Yeah. That's not just a small church thing. That's a small, medium, large, uber large church thing. And they'll sit in some of the listening groups when I'm there doing an assessment, and they'll say, but you just don't understand. My kid is in the show choir and in the lacrosse team and in the National Quilting Bee and in the and they're just so busy. And I'll say, can I ask you a question about that? And she'll say, or he'll say, yes. And I said, who signed all those permission forms? But anyway, that's a whole nother workshop. Okay, back in the back, the hand against the wall. Because I know who sits in the back. The bad kids and the Episcopalians. But my friends aren't going. That happens at every youth group. It's just more noticeable in a small church because if their friends aren't going and you only had 8 to draw from, and the one popular whatever or the one that draws 3 or 4 doesn't come, then it kind of affects the whole thing. Yeah, the critical mass. Anybody else? One more. Yeah, right here. Yeah, you with the great glasses and the pretty blonde hair.
But I have a project due that I have homework, and that's a huge one at our church.
Yeah, do you meet on Sunday nights? Yeah. Well, just tell them to just fail school and love Jesus instead. Ellen says, because that degree won't get you to heaven. I'd not heard that before. You're right. Okay, so let's kind of spend some time talking about, in America today, what are some of the statistics that surround small church youth ministry. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. First of all, and all of these I've redone recently because I'm in the middle. I'm about 3/4 done with a book project that was due this summer. Was due, but it's not done. I don't know. But anyway, so that should be a statistic. How many books are undone about small church youth ministry? This one. So first of all, and by the way, take all the pictures you want. You are more than welcome to do that. Also, at the next to the last slide, I'll give you my contact info. And if I talk about any slides or any templates or forms that I talk about that you want, feel free to email me. And I did that for my volunteer workshop yesterday where I've got a file to send them. So don't hesitate to ask. It's mine, it's yours. Okay, first of all, in America, the medium church size is 76 people. That's middle of the road. There's as many churches larger and as many churches smaller. So when you think about that, it kind of changes the landscape of who we assume small churches are. We assume that we're a small church, but how many of you have more than 76 members in your church? Raise your hand. The majority of the room. So you're actually in the top 50%, the top 50%. I'm so good at math. Good thing I'm pretty. So the average size church is 76, and this, like in the Presbyterian church, the average size is 87. In the Episcopal church right now, the average size church in the Episcopal denomination is 59, and so what's happening is, of course, we know that the mainline denominations are getting smaller. Small churches are going to fare this next storm, this next hurricane well. We already know how to be a small church. That's actually an advantage for us. What's happening is that medium and large churches are getting smaller as well. The uber churches are staying large. That's the reason why you see that next number that says the average Sunday worship attendance is 187. And that's because there's so many non-denom big churches. Like I go, I'm from Houston, and we're the land of Joel Osteen. Like Second Baptist there has 5 campuses, and the smallest one is 5,000 people. And so, but there are church situations where membership isn't as emphasized, and so you'll see larger numbers on Sunday. Problem is they also have as many people going out the back door. They're coming in the front. So, it's not all beauty there either. And the other sort of amazing statistic is that 90% of our churches in America have 90% or less members. So I think this puts it all into perspective for us, that lets us know we're not the out of the norm. We're actually the average. So if you thought like your youth group was small or less than it should be, good news, you're just average. So, yeah, I'm mediocre, yes. Better than you thought. So, less than 1% of churches in America have 1,000 people or more, and the average size youth group is 7 to 8. So, in light of that, now how many of you then have, like through the doors in a week in your church, more than 7 or 8 students every week? Yeah. Okay, great. See? So don't you already feel better about yourself? There you go. Anyway, okay, so let's just kind of keep looking at some of the stats. This is really interesting. Number 5 and 6 is something that we've seen a shift in recently. In polling Americans, the number that say they still believe in God has stayed high. It's kind of who God is to them was where some of the difference comes in. So there's still a high belief in a higher power God. But even as of 10 years ago, 42% of Americans were in their house of worship in a week. But today, that's down to about 18%. So we still have this belief in God, but maybe we don't so much, this is not a big shocker, we don't have this belief in the church system, or we believe more in staying home on Sunday, whatever that is. And now, as you're working with churches, active in a church on Sunday is now considered one time a month. But you're seeing it, aren't you? You're seeing one time a month and this move towards 1 hour a week. Well, it really comes down to 1 hour a month. If we're one time a month and we've got folks that want to come for 1 hour a week. And so what's happening is in your small churches and in large churches, it's playing havoc with our Christian formation plans. Because what to do about Sunday school? It's just tanking everywhere. And so do you have still keep trying to put all your Christian ed eggs in the basket of Sunday school, or do you kind of move towards having church with children's church in it and focus the most of the Christian formation in that? So anyway, it's a conundrum. If it was just like the good old days when we all went to Sunday school and church, everything would be fine, but it's not. So anyway, the number of churches that close per year greatly outweigh the number of churches that open. And this is really flip-flopped in the last 10 to 15 years. Questions? Thoughts? Tacky gestures? Yes, right back here. What's your name, sir? Tony. Hi, Tony.
I was curious on the last statistic. Is there any kind of measurement as to what might be closing and relaunching?
Well, you know, the type of churches that are opening or the ones that are the healthiest now are all the non-denom community type churches. Mainline denominations are hemorrhaging membership. So we've known this for a while, or we saw it coming, but now I think the thing that has changed is we saw it coming after the last Pew report. Now we know that it's here. It's no longer coming. So you see this in the small church, medium church, whereas what's happening for the medium-sized church is that as they're getting smaller, they were so staff-dependent, they're reducing the number of staffing roles. It's going to be harder and harder for someone to get a full-time job in youth ministry over the next just even recent years. If you're looking out at the job market at all in youth ministry, you're seeing more combined jobs in staffing. You're seeing more where we want to hire a youth children's person. You're seeing more jobs go from, if something happens to the full-time person, you're seeing more churches go part-time. Or they, I shouldn't be this cynical, but I am. I'm a cranky old grandma, and I'm proud of it. You see more churches just sort of forcing the change in staffing. There's unfortunately in staffing out there a lot of unpleasantness happening. Let's just call it that. Yeah. Anything else? What else? Now that we're just all really excited about getting... Well, you know, in fact, since we're in smaller churches, how many of you are paid to do the job you have at your church? Okay. Put your hands down. How many of you are paid to do just youth ministry? How many of you are... You're not in a small church, Nathan, though. I've done the assessment at his church. He's in a church that, at least when I was there, I never thought I would see youth group work on Sunday morning. Is it still like that? It is the success story. They have this just awesome youth place where they do youth group basically on Sunday morning. It's like an extended hour and a half, hour, 40 minutes. They got worship, they got breakfast, they got small groups, they got it all, and just happens to be on Sunday morning. So maybe he should be teaching the workshop. I don't know. So there you go. So outside of Nathan, how many of you are in small churches where you're paid full time to do youth ministry? Just youth ministry. So, wait, do that again, because I didn't know if you were thinking about it or if you're just being hesitant or your arm was tired. Okay. How many of you are paid part-time to do youth ministry at your church? Just youth ministry. Okay, put your arms on. How many of you are not paid volunteer youth leaders? Yeah, it's usually... You guys are awesome. And how many of you are wonderful volunteers in your youth ministry at your church? Yay for you. Good for you. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about then. We're going to talk about as if Ministry Architects was on site at your church and you were going to try to do your own ministry assessment of how healthy your numbers are. So I'm being filmed for Ministry Architects, and so yes, Mark, I'm giving away the store right here. Fire me. I'm always waiting for it, but anywho, so this is what we would talk about were we at your church doing an assessment. And these next two slides, I mean, there's much more that we talked about, but these are some numbers and some concepts we would talk with you. So first of all, when we're at a small church, we will talk about, hey, church, and we're talking to the whole church, because who does the youth ministry belong to? Whose responsibility is it? It's the churches. Who do they usually leave it up to? The youth director. But anyway, the youth ministry and its vision and goals is the responsibility of the church. The church should be the architect of that. So anyway, you know what business rents are. Rents are like if you are a pastor in a church that has contemporary and traditional. In the traditional service, the pastor pays the rent of wearing robes. You may or may not like wearing robes, but in that service, they want you to wear robes. Whereas in the contemporary service, you would pay the rent of not wearing robes. So you kind of get where I'm going? So if a church wants to see a healthy, thriving youth ministry, you got to pay 3 rents. The first is in numbers, but not like you think. Now, numbers is one of the things that we struggle with, right, in small churches. In this case, what we're saying is the church together has to pay the rent of deciding what's the target number going to be. And usually they haven't. So what's your first name? Nick. So say Nick's the youth leader, youth director at his church, and people start talking about the youth program. I know that never happens. No one ever gossips about there's also never any politics around the youth program. Yeah, except in the United Methodist Church, because we are by no means united. Anyway, like an oxymoron, United Methodist. It's going to be such an interesting year coming up for us. We got a big old thing going on. But anyway, so Nick's doing this youth ministry, and he's feeling really good because he's got like 12 kids that are coming every week. He's feeling good about that. We got like 12 kids. And a year ago, we only had 3 kids, but I went out and kidnapped 9 more. And so we got 12 kids coming. The problem is the church as a whole didn't set a target number. And so you got people out there going, well, I remember when this church used to have 50 kids coming. Or if we just put in a ping pong table and a foosball table, we'd have 100 kids coming here. They'd just be hanging out here every Friday night, because that's what kids want to do. They want to hang out where there's a ping pong table, but we won't put a pool table in because that's trouble, people. That's just from my own ministry history. That's trouble. Then we're going to have these hooligans hanging here at church on Friday night because we got a pool table. And so the problem is that one person in his church thinks they should have 50, and then another thinks they should have 100, and he's doing great having 12, but people start to grumble because he's not meeting their numbers expectation. See what I'm saying? So a church, if it wants to thrive together, has to decide what's our target going to be. Because the church together has to figure out how are we going to get there. And then that way nobody's talking about poor Nick. Nick doesn't have to have the role of being the architect and the general contractor. If the church is the architect and figures out we want to see 18 kids on a regular basis, and here's how we think it'll happen, all you've got to do then is go and live that out and get the day laborers, the volunteers to help. The next rent is, I think we do this in small churches. I think we get desperate sometimes, and so we're always trying something new. We think, well, you know, I'm gonna try youth group we're gonna try youth group once a month. Well, let me tell you, that never works, by the way. Just don't do youth group once a month. I almost want to say don't ever do it, or commit to every week. Just go all in, but because you know when you do it once a month, well, stop it.
I've been doing it for 2 years, and they love it.
And they love it, because where do they go the other 3 weeks? Like they hang out at where there's a pool table, don't they? Hooligans. Okay, Michael. Well, don't do what he does. It works.
I went from 0 kids
To
13
every month. So the problem, I'm happy for you.
Oh, no, trust me, it was something I didn't want to do.
You wanted to go every week? You are the one that really loves Jesus. The rest of your church, you're a Presbyterian, is that what you said? Yeah, there's a problem right there.